Hello and welcome. I'm Pallavi Sharma and you're watching Biz World Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended with marginal gains in a volatile session on April 2nd. The Census was up 0.25% at 73,319.55 points, and Nifty was up 0.15% at 22,713.1 points. HCL Tech Mahindra, TCS, Tata Consumer, Wipro were among the top gainers on Nifty, while the top losers were Eternal, Asian Paints, iShare Motors, Bajaj Auto, and Sun Pharma. Nifty Mid Cap Index fell 0.3% and Small Cap Index fell 0.4%. Among sectors, IT Index rose 2.6%, Realty up 1%, while Auto, PSU Bank, Oil and Gas, Pharma, Consumer Durables shed 1% each. Indian rupee ended higher at 93.1 per dollar on April 2nd. By now, we all know the drill of a global conflict. One speech by Donald Trump, and there is a global impact. This time, it is your fuel prices, economy, and stability. Trump gave a speech on Wednesday. On 1st of April, it was on Iran war, but it was not just about Iran and the United States. It was a message to the world. In his latest speech, Trump made three big claims. First, he said that the war is nearing completion and that Iran has been heavily weakened militarily. Second, he issued a warning. If Iran does not agree to a deal, the United States could target its power grid, a move experts say could severely impact civilian lives. Third, he kept the door open for negotiations, suggesting a deal is still possible even while threatening an escalation. So, what Trump is claiming here is that we are close to winning, but we can escalate more too. On Strait of Hormuz, he first said that the countries dependent on Gulf for oil should quote unquote go and get the oil through the passage by themselves. And then he said that the strait would open up naturally once the conflict is concluded. Now, what's the reality to this claim? Despite Trump's claims, the war is far from over. Iran's regime is still stable with multiple layers of leadership backup in place. There is no clear end timeline for this conflict yet, and tensions remain extremely high, especially around the key oil routes like Strait of Hormuz. There is no clear answer to whether Iran's nuclear program has been completely obliterated, and the central objective of the war to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is achieved. And his speech, it has done what it does usually. It has given mixed signals. One hand, we are winning. On the other hand, we can escalate further. What is clear is that the uncertainty is exactly what is shaking global markets. Oil prices are on the rise after Trump's remarks, and financial markets have also reacted in a negative way after the speech. US dollar has only strengthened further, and this is where it hits home. India is deeply connected to West Asia because nearly 60% of India's oil imports come from this region. Millions of Indians live and work there, and billions in remittances flow back to India every year. So when Trump talks about the war escalating, it directly affects India, from oil prices to manufacturing to workers abroad to economic pressure. So the biggest takeaway from Trump's speech is nothing we already did not know. There is no quick resolution to this war yet, and there is no clear solution to the oil crisis as well. What's worrying is that the uncertainty only raises further concerns and does not solve any. What does a war in West Asia have to do with bedrooms in India? Sounds strange, right? But right now, a geopolitical conflict thousands of kilometers away is quietly triggering a condom shortage in India. And this is not just a quirky headline. It's actually a serious economic and public health concern. The ongoing war in West Asia, especially around key regions like the Strait of Hormuz, is disrupting global trade routes and supply chains. Now, normally we hear about how this crisis affects oil prices, fuel costs, and even airfares. We have seen our kitchens getting affected with an LPG crisis and price hike in LPG and fuel as well in many cities. But this time the impact has reached a very unexpected sector. India's 8,000 crore rupees condom industry. India produces over 400 crore condoms every year, making it one of the largest producers globally. But now, manufacturers are facing shortages, rising costs, and production disruptions, and that's where the problem begins. So, why is this actually happening? To understand this, you first need to understand how condoms are actually made. Two key materials are very critical in manufacturing a condom: silicone oil, used as a lubricant, and ammonia, used as a stabilizer for latex. And here's the key issue. Both of these depend heavily on petrochemical supply chains, which are now disrupted due to the war. Ammonia prices are expected to rise by 40 to 50% as per reports. Silicone oil is already in short supply globally. Packaging materials like PVC and aluminum foil are also getting expensive. And on top of that, shipping routes have been affected, making imports now slower and costlier. And remember, India imports a huge chunk of these raw materials, especially ammonia from the West Asian region. So when war hits this region, India's supply chain gets squeezed. And this is where things get serious. India's condom market runs on high volume, low margin model, meaning products are kept cheap so they remain accessible to everyone in the country. But now production costs are rising, raw materials are scarce, and supply chains are unstable, which means companies may be forced to either increase prices or reduce the supply. Some estimates even suggest that the prices could rise up to 50%, and early signs are already visible. Pharmacies in cities like Mumbai and Delhi are reporting patchy availability. But why is this a big deal? This isn't just about business and pricing. Condoms are a critical public health tool. They are essential for family planning, preventing unwanted pregnancies, reducing sexually transmitted infections or STIs. If prices rise and availability drops, usage can fall, especially among low-income groups, and that could lead to more unplanned pregnancies, higher maternal and infant health risks, and increase in STI cases. Experts warn that even a small drop in usage can have long-term social consequences. So what this story really shows is how deeply interconnected the global economy is, that a war affecting oil and shipping costs in West Asia ends up impacting something as small as this, but the impact is so huge. So next time you hear about a war impacting oil prices, remember the ripple effects can go far beyond petrol pumps. Sometimes they can reach places where you never expect them to reach. When two countries fight, it's not just about who wins on ground. It's about who survives after the win or loss. A war is not free of cost. It has a spending that is in billions of dollars, and who is paying for that? The taxpayers. Americans in this case, those Americans who have, according to surveys, said that they do not want a war with Iran. US is spending 9.8 lakh rupees every single second in this war. The American taxpayers are paying for it, not only through taxes, but also through high gas prices and groceries. So how much more money will the US spend on this war? Our next report has the details.
9.8 lakh rupees every single second. That's how fast money is being burned in the ongoing US-Israel war on Iran. According to a report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the United States is spending around 8,455 crore rupees every single day on this conflict, making it one of the most expensive ongoing military operations in the world right now.
To put that into perspective,
the total cost of the war has already crossed 2.6 lakh crore rupees in just about a month. That's more than the annual budgets of several countries. And the most important point, the meter is still running, with no clear end in sight. So, where's all this money going? This isn't just one big expense, it's a massive, constantly running military machine. A huge chunk is being spent on missiles and advanced weapons systems, which alone account for thousands of crores daily. Air operations, including fighter jets, bombers, and surveillance aircraft, are another major cost driver. Naval deployments, including aircraft carriers and submarines, add further pressure on the budget. On top of that, missile defense systems like advanced interceptors, along with intelligence, cyber operations, and logistics support, continue to push daily costs higher. The reason these numbers are so massive is because modern warfare is extremely technology-driven. We're talking about precision-guided missiles, real-time surveillance systems, and high-end defense platforms. Even a single missile can cost millions of dollars. When you multiply that across continuous operations, the cost skyrockets very quickly. But the big question is, who is paying for all of this? Ultimately, it is the American taxpayer. And now, there are increasing indications that the US could ask its allies, especially in the Middle East, to share some of this financial burden. Because sustaining this level of spending for a long period is simply not easy, even for the world's largest economy. And this is where the bigger impact comes in. This kind of massive war spending doesn't just stay limited to the battlefield. It can increase government debt, create economic pressure back home, and even impact global markets. US debt has already crossed its GDP to surge above $39 trillion, and Pentagon seeks more funds to keep the war going. If the conflict continues for longer, experts warn that the total cost could run into trillions of dollars over time.
You wake up one day, oil prices are up significantly. Cars are lined up for kilometers at fuel stations. Economies are in chaos and governments are scrambling to respond. Sounds like right now? Well, a similar thing happened in 1973. There was an oil crisis that reshaped the global economy and still impacts us. But why are we talking about this today? Well, because the crisis in Middle East is being compared to 1973 oil crisis. That crisis began during the Yom Kippur War when Egypt and Syria launched an attack on Israel. The United States stepped in to support Israel with military aid, and that decision triggered a powerful response from Arab nations. Oil-producing countries, especially those part of OPEC, decided to weaponize oil. They cut production and imposed an embargo on countries backing Israel, effectively choking global oil supply almost overnight. The impact was immediate and severe. Global oil supply dropped significantly and prices skyrocketed, raising nearly 4 times within just a few months. Petrol became scarce, long queues formed outside fuel stations, and industries across the world slowed down. This wasn't just an energy problem. It quickly turned into a full-blown economic crisis. Inflation surged, economic growth also stalled, and several major economies slipped into a recession. For the first time, the world truly understood how deeply oil was tied to the economic stability. But beyond the immediate shock, the crisis marked a major shift in global power. Before 1973, Western nations had largely controlled oil markets. After the embargo, oil-producing nations gained massive global influence. OPEC proved that it could control prices and supply, forcing the world to rethink its dependence on the Middle Eastern oil. In fact, this was the first time when US had negotiated a deal with Saudi Arabia to price its oil exports exclusively in dollars, and that's when the petrodollar system came into effect. This crisis led countries to start building strategic oil reserves, invest in alternative energy sources, and prioritize energy security in a way they never had before. Even India felt the shock as OPEC refused to adopt a dual pricing system, and India was a heavy importer of oil, and its import bill was set to rise significantly. And that's when India sought aid from the World Bank, IMF, and donor countries that proved controversial for the country. Fast forward to today, and the relevance of the 1973 crisis becomes even clearer. When ongoing tensions are in Middle East, the critical oil routes like Strait of Hormuz are under threat. Experts are now drawing parallels to that historic moment. But there is an alarming difference. While the 1973 crisis disrupted around 4.5 million barrels of oil per day, today's potential disruptions could impact nearly 20 million barrels daily. Now, that's almost 4 times larger, meaning the consequences could be far more severe. For India, it has evolved from that era and now is stable and powerful with greater connections economically and geopolitically. But the lesson from 1973 crisis is simple and significant. When oil supply is disrupted, the ripple effects are seen across the world, from global economies to everyday life. As history threatens to repeat itself, the real question now is not what happened back then, but whether the world is truly prepared to handle a crisis of that scale again. Imagine you're in college. There are groups of friends, some very friendly, some not. So when you start a fight with a person from a different group, you expect your friends to have your back. And when they don't, you feel betrayed. That is exactly what is happening with Donald Trump. He expected his friends in Europe to support him monetarily and militarily in the Iran war. But Europe backed off. It had its reasons, but Trump felt betrayed. Sounds like a story from a movie, but this is reality, and that betrayal has led to just one question. Is this the end of NATO? Our next report explores.
NATO allies are saying no to Donald Trump, and this is now turning into one of the biggest cracks in Western unity in recent years. At a time when the US is pushing hard in the Iran war, Europe is refusing to abide by the one for all and all for one motto. Let's start with what's actually happening. Countries like Spain, Italy, and France have either restricted or refused to allow the US to fully use their airspace for military operations targeting Iran. Germany and Spain have also shown reluctance in allowing access to certain air bases and military facilities. So why is Europe taking such a strong stand? The first big reason is lack of consultation. Reports suggest the US moved ahead with the conflict without fully aligning with its NATO allies. For Europe, this creates a trust gap. The second reason is economic risk. Europe is already dealing with inflation and energy uncertainty. A prolonged conflict in the Middle East, especially one affecting key routes like the Strait of Hormuz, could push energy prices even higher and strain their economies further. The third factor is public opinion. Across countries like France and Germany, there is strong resistance to joining another war. And finally, there's a strategic concern. Europe is already heavily focused on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Diverting military attention to Iran could weaken their position there, something they cannot afford right now. Meanwhile, Gulf countries are quietly telling the United States, don't stop the war yet. According to recent reports, countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain are privately telling the US that this is not the time to stop. They believe the current military campaign has weakened Iran, but not enough to eliminate the threat completely. They see this moment as an opportunity to permanently reduce Iran's influence in the region. And their expectations are very clear. Gulf allies want the war to continue until Iran's missile systems, nuclear ambitions, and regional power are significantly dismantled. However, nations like Oman and Qatar are still pushing for a diplomatic solution instead of prolonged conflict. So Trump is now considering seeking funds to keep the military offensive against Iran on from the Middle East. Because NATO, well, they have not supported Trump in this war. Trump even posted on Truth Social on how he sees this reluctance from NATO, and that he will remember it. And that's why many are asking, is this the end of NATO?
Imagine you go to sleep with a stable tech job and wake up to find an email sent at 6 a.m. saying you no longer are needed. No warning, no transition, just gone. It seems to have become a new norm in the tech industry, but can affect a person losing his job emotionally and financially. That exactly is what happened to thousands at Oracle Corporation. And it's not just about layoffs. It's about a much bigger shift that could redefine jobs in the tech industry, especially in India. So what exactly is happening? Oracle, one of the world's biggest enterprise software companies, has started laying off thousands of employees globally, with reports suggesting up to 30,000 job cuts worldwide and as many as 10 to 12,000 in India alone. India is one of Oracle's largest workforce hubs, so naturally the impact here is more significant. Employees across teams, from engineering to cloud to consulting, have been affected, often with immediate termination and system access cut within hours. But why is this happening? The answer lies in Oracle's aggressive pivot towards artificial intelligence and cloud computing. The company is investing billions of dollars into building AI-powered data centers and expanding its cloud infrastructure. This shift requires massive capital, and to free up that money, Oracle is cutting human jobs. In fact, these layoffs are essentially funding its AI ambitions. There is also a much deeper structural change underway. Oracle's traditional business, selling database software, is under pressure as AI transforms how companies are now operating. Many tasks that were once required a large team of people can now be automated using AI systems, making certain roles redundant. So this isn't just cost cutting, it's a clear signal that machines are beginning to replace human heavy workflows. At the same time, Oracle is facing intense competition in the cloud space from companies like Amazon, forcing it to scale up rapidly. That means investing heavily in infrastructure like data centers that can support AI workloads, something that is extremely expensive. So the company is now reallocating resources, less spending on people, more spending on machines. For India, this is a big deal. The country is a major tech talent hub, and thousands of high-skilled jobs are now at risk. More importantly, this is not just a one-off situation. If you have lived through 2025, you know it. As per an independent tracking platform, layoffs.fyi, the tech sector saw a huge scale job cut situation in 2025, with around 112,732 employees losing their jobs across 218 companies, and most of them were due to restructuring processes to adopt AI and automation. Major companies include Amazon and Intel, which reduced workforce as they reshaped their operations for an AI-driven future. And that brings us to the bigger picture. This isn't just about one company. It's about a future where companies may need fewer employees but more computing power, where efficiency is driven by algorithms, not by large teams, and where job roles are constantly evolving or disappearing altogether. The real question now is not just why these layoffs are happening, but who's next in the age of AI. The government is about to count every single person in India after 16 long years. When you hear the word census, you would think of officials visiting your homes numerous times, getting forms filled, signatures, etc. But this time, it's very different. India's first digital census, without paper, without forms, and maybe without even visiting your home first, is here. India has officially begun preparations for its 2027 census, the first one since 2011 and also the first fully digital census in the country's history. This is not just a survey. This is the world's largest population exercise covering over 1 billion people. And this time, instead of paper forms, the entire process is now going to rely on mobile apps, online self-enumeration, and real-time data collection. In fact, for the first time, you can fill your own census details online even before official visits your home. So how will it work? The census will happen in two phases. Phase 1 is in 2026. It's the house listing. Officials will collect data on your home like housing conditions, amenities like water, electricity, internet, etc., and assets like TV, vehicles, and more. In the first phase of the census, citizens will have to answer 33 questions focused on building materials used in houses, types of cereals consumed, ownership of gadgets, etc. The first phase will start in many states and union territories from April and go on till September 2026. The timeline might be different for every state or union territory. Phase 2 in 2027 is population count. This is where personal details come in: age, gender, education, job and migration, social and economic status. All of this will be collected. But here's the big change. Instead of writing everything on paper, enumerators will use mobile apps. Data will be uploaded instantly and you can self-submit your data online. You will get a unique ID, and when officials visit, they will just verify it. And why does this matter though? This isn't just about counting people. Census data decides how government schemes are designed, where schools, hospitals, and roads are built, and how resources are distributed in the country. But here's the big problem. India has been using 2011 data for over a decade now because the 2021 census got delayed, and that means policies today are based on outdated population realities. The digital census aims to fix that by making data faster, reducing errors, and even releasing results within the same year. Now let's come to the controversies. The census could also include caste data, something India hasn't fully captured in decades. Plus, there are concerns: data privacy, digital access for rural populations, and the accuracy of self-reported data. So while it's modern, it is also complex. The government, though, has now assured that safety of citizens' private data is in place. It stressed that the personal data is encrypted and protected under the Census Act of 1948. It is going to be strictly confidential and cannot be used in court or shared with other departments as well. So this digital census should be seen as an upgrade. As India is going digital, it's not just about tech anymore, it's about how India understands and shows itself to the world as a modern, digitally savvy nation of 1.4 billion people, because every number counts, shapes policies and power and the future of the nation. Your flight ticket just got expensive, and it's because of a war thousands of kilometers away. Jet fuel or aviation turbine fuel prices have surged globally. So on April 1st, in the morning in India, the price was at record 2.07 lakh rupees per kiloliter, but the Indian government stepped in and the hike was capped at 25% from a 115% earlier. So the price plunged to 1.04 lakh rupees per kiloliter. The public sector OMCs too confirmed it, but Indigo has increased its fuel surcharge after the announcement of the hike. So how long will you be safe from a massive price surge? Our next report explains.
Flight tickets are about to get more expensive, but not in the way you think. Because right now, jet fuel prices in India have crossed a shocking milestone. And yet, airlines are not passing on the full burden to passengers. Aviation turbine fuel, or jet fuel, has seen a massive surge due to the ongoing Iran war and disruption in global oil supply. In fact, prices have shot up so sharply that in some segments, they even crossed 2 lakh rupees per kiloliter, highlighting the severity of the crisis. Now here's why this matters. Fuel is the single biggest expense for airlines, accounting for nearly 35% to 45% of total operating costs. So when fuel prices rise, airlines have only two options: either absorb the cost or pass it on to passengers. And globally, many airlines are already choosing the second option. Ticket ticket prices are rising, fuel surcharges are being added, and even services like baggage are getting more expensive as carriers try to recover costs. But in India, the situation is slightly different. Despite the sharp increase in fuel prices, domestic passengers have been protected, at least for now. Reports suggest that only about 25% of the fuel price hike has been passed on to airlines. In fact, for scheduled domestic airlines, the actual fuel price increase is closer to around 8 to 9%, not the extreme spikes seen in some reports. This has helped avoid an immediate surge in airfares, giving temporary relief to passengers. Airlines like Air India, Indigo, and Akasa Air have started introducing fuel surcharges, adding anywhere between 199 rupees to over 1,300 rupees per ticket, depending on the route. But the question, how long will you be saved from a massive hike? Because the longer the fuel prices remain high, the harder it becomes for airlines to absorb the cost. Experts say that the real impact on ticket prices could become more visible in the coming weeks, especially as airlines adjust fares to stay financially viable. Meanwhile, the war has not only increased oil prices, but also forced airlines to take longer routes and deal with airspace restrictions, increasing fuel consumption even further. So, what does this mean for you as a traveler? In the short term, you may see only a moderate increase in ticket prices, but in the medium to long term, if fuel prices remain elevated, airfares may rise further, which is why experts are already advising passengers to book early, because prices could climb quickly if the situation worsens.
That's all for this week. I will see you in the next. Keep watching ET Now for more such news and views.